The sound of the courtroom door closing behind me echoed like a final verdict. My son, Leo, didn't even glance my way. He just shook his head and whispered something to his wife, Isabel. It was a look I'd become accustomed to, a mixture of pity and impatience. But then, something shifted. The judge, a distinguished-looking man with sharp eyes, looked up from his file. His gaze landed on me, and he froze. He leaned into his microphone, his voice a low, stunned murmur. Arthur? Arthur Jacobs. A hush fell over the entire room. In that single moment, they all realized they had no idea who I truly was. That trial, it didn't just change the case, it changed the course of our lives. My name is Arthur. For 69 years, I've lived a life of simple routines. Every morning, I wake at dawn, brew my coffee in the same chipped World's Best Dad mug, and look out my kitchen window while tending to the vegetable garden my late wife, Clara, cherished. It was a quiet, predictable life, and I found peace in it. For 45 of those years, my entire world was my son, Leo. I worked nights as a janitor, spent my weekends fixing appliances for neighbors, all so he could get a top-notch education and opportunities one never had. When he married Isabel, a woman whose ambition sometimes overshadowed her warmth, I welcomed her. I hosted them for Sunday dinners, always setting a full table, hoping the tradition would keep our family close. After Clara passed, I thought Leo and I would find solace in each other. I was mistaken. Instead of growing closer, my son began to see me as a responsibility he hadn't asked for. His visits became infrequent and rushed. His calls were brief, and his reasons for not coming over grew more and more elaborate. The breaking point came on an overcast Thursday. I had spent the day preparing Clara's legendary shepherd's pie, Leo's favorite dish since childhood. The house was filled with the comforting aroma of home. I'd even laid out old board games, hoping to spark a connection. They arrived, and the warmth seemed to drain from the room. Isabel entered first, her eyes critically scanning the furniture. Leo followed, his posture tense, his gaze fixed on the floor. "Dad, we need to talk," he said, his voice devoid of its usual warmth. He sat on the edge of the armchair, looking ready to bolt. "Isabel and I have given this a lot of thought. This house is too much for you. The maintenance, the isolation, it's not ideal. And we need a larger home to start our family. We've found a wonderful senior living community. It has excellent facilities and a vibrant social calendar." I felt the ground fall away beneath me. This was the house where Leo took his first steps, where we built a fort in the living room, where Clara had peacefully passed away, surrounded by love. Every scratch on the floor, every mark on the wall, was a testament to our life together. "Leo, this is our home," I pleaded, my voice unsteady. "Your mother. All our memories are within these walls. Memories aren't held in plaster and wood, Dad," he replied, his tone chillingly clinical. "They're in here." He tapped his chest, but the gesture felt empty. "The community has activities, people your own age. You'll be happier there." Isabel finally spoke, her voice smooth yet sharp. "It's for the best, Arthur. We'll manage all the logistics. You won't have to lift a finger." My heart felt like it was being squeezed. My own son, the boy I had dedicated my life to, was being guided to push me out of my own home. Tears pricked at my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wouldn't give them that. "I need some time to process this," I said, clinging to the last fragments of my dignity. "There's nothing to process, Dad," Leo said, standing abruptly. "It's decided. The movers are booked for next Friday." And with that, they were gone. They left the shepherd's pie cooling on the stove, the board games unopened, and my spirit shattered in the one place that had always been my sanctuary. Sleep was impossible that night. I wandered through the silent house like a ghost. In the attic, I found a box of Leo's old things, a little league glove, science fair ribbons, a crayon drawing of our family. In every memory, I was there, supporting him. How had we drifted so far? How could the boy who once looked at me with admiration now look at me with inconvenience? The days that followed were a blur of imposed chaos. Leo brought over a home stager, a woman who spoke of depersonalizing the space as she packed away our family photos. "These dark wood cabinets date the entire kitchen," she remarked, running a hand over the solid oak I had installed myself. Isabel nodded in agreement. "Yes, it all feels very last century." The ultimate degradation came when they arrived with paperwork. Leo, Isabel, and a stern-faced man who introduced himself as their legal counsel. "Mr. Jacobs, we've prepared the documents for the property transfer," the lawyer said, placing the papers on the kitchen table. "We just need your signature here." "Transfer?" I asked, bewildered. "I thought you were selling it?" Leo couldn't meet my eyes. "We decided it makes more financial sense to keep it in the family." The truth dawned with horrifying clarity. This wasn't about my well-being. It was a calculated takeover. They wanted to seize the legacy I built with Clara. "I'm not signing anything," I stated, my voice firmer than I expected. Isabel's pleasant facade cracked. "Arthur, be sensible. You're not thinking straight." Leo stepped forward, his face hardening. "Dad, you're not in a position to make these choices. You forgot to pay the water bill last month. This isn't safe." "That's not true," I protested, my voice rising. "I have the receipt." The lawyer cleared his throat. "Mr. Jacobs, if you refuse to cooperate, we may have to seek a court-ordered evaluation of your capacity to manage your affairs." The threat was a cold knife in my chest. My own son was prepared to have me declared incompetent to get my house. "I need time," I whispered, utterly defeated. "You have until Friday," Isabel said, her voice final. "Then the movers come, and we file the petition." After they left, I sank into my old armchair and let the tears come. I cried for the son I had lost, for the home that was being stolen, for the profound betrayal that crushed me. I felt ancient, worthless, and completely alone. For the first time, I considered surrender. Maybe they were right, but somewhere deep within, a spark of defiance refused to be extinguished. A lifetime of overcoming obstacles had forged a resilience that even this couldn't break. I would not let them erase me without a fight. The next day, Leo returned alone. A naive part of me hoped for an apology. "Dad, I'm here to start packing," he announced, his voice flat. "We'll begin with the study." I looked at him, searching for any remnant of my boy. I found only a stranger. "Leo, please, reconsider this." "This is exactly why I must do it," he replied, avoiding my gaze. "Because I care about you, and this is what's best." Care. The word felt like a mockery. For hours, he systematically dismantled my life. He boxed up my book collection, my vinyl records, the ceramic vase Clara had made in her pottery class. "This sweater is full of holes, Dad," he said, holding up my favorite old cardigan. "You don't need this." "Please, Leo. Your mother knitted that for me," I begged. But it was already in a discard pile. My history, my treasures, my connection to Clara, it all meant nothing to him. The final indignity was when he found my metal lockbox. Inside was my father's wristwatch, the pearl earrings I'd given Clara on our 25th anniversary, and a collection of old letters from my parents. "I'll keep these secure for you," Leo said, tucking the box under his arm. "A shared facility isn't safe for heirlooms." "Those belong to me," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Dad, you're becoming agitated. This is precisely the behavior we're concerned about," he replied with an infuriating calm. "It's for your own good." In that moment, the last thread of hope snapped. The Leo the first knew and loved was gone, replaced by this cold, manipulated stranger. That night, after he left with the last pieces of my past, I sat on the floor of my half-empty study, surrounded by the cardboard coffins of my memories. I was broken, but a quiet, steely resolve was beginning to form in the wreckage. I just didn't know where to find the strength to fight back. Little did I know, the answer had been hidden in this very house all along, waiting for me to discover it. Lost in the silence of my dismantled home, I felt a pull towards the one place that still felt like Clara, her small, wooden writing desk. It stood in the corner of our bedroom, untouched for years. I ran my hand over the smooth surface, remembering how she'd sit there for hours, paying bills, writing letters, lost in her own world. Driven by a need to feel close to her, I began opening the drawers. They were filled with the ordinary artifacts of a life lived. Old checkbooks, birthday cards, recipes clipped from magazines. But in the very bottom drawer, tucked beneath a stack of faded fabric swatches, was a folder I had never seen before. It was made of thick, tan leather, and embossed on the front, in Clara's elegant script, were my initials, AJ. A small brass lock held it securely closed. My heart hammered against my ribs. Clara was always the planner, the organized one. I handled the physical world. She navigated the world of numbers and documents. With trembling hands, I searched for the key. I checked her jewelry box, the pockets of her old coats. Nothing. Then I remembered. The book, the heavy, dense volume on financial planning and investment that I'd always teased her about. Planning for a future we're already living, my love, I'd say. She'd just give me that gentle, knowing smile. I pulled the book from the shelf. It fell open to a chapter on real estate, and there, tucked into the crease, was a small silver key. The lock clicked open with a soft, decisive sound. Inside was not just a will, but a revelation. A map of a secret life my brilliant wife had built for us. The first document was a last will and testament, dated just a few months before her passing. It revoked all previous versions. It stated, in clear and unassailable language, that I, Arthur Jacobs, was the sole beneficiary of her entire estate. Leo was mentioned in a single powerful clause. He would receive a modest inheritance only after my passing, and only if he could demonstrate a consistent, caring, and respectful relationship with me in my later years. Clara had seen the path we were on. She had sensed the change in Leo, the influence Isabel wielded. But the will was just the beginning. There were property deeds. Not just for our home, but for a 4-unit apartment building in a trendy part of the city. The very building where Leo and Isabel lived. For 3 years, they had been paying rent to a management company that, according to these documents, was depositing the money into a private account in Clara's name. An account I knew nothing about. I shuffled through the papers, my breath catching. I found bank statements. The balance was staggering. For 2 years since Clara's death, I had been meticulously budgeting my pension, while a fortune had been silently accumulating. There was more. Stock certificates. A significant, non-controlling but influential stake in the marketing firm where Isabel was a junior partner. The firm she was so proud of, the one she thought was her ticket to the top. My wife, the quiet, thoughtful gardener, owned a piece of her daughter-in-law's ambition. I read every line, my mind reeling. There were investments in local startups, a silent partnership in a successful cafe downtown, and the deed to a small, unused warehouse. A property that was now at the heart of a new urban development plan, making it incredibly valuable. My Clara. My brilliant, foresight Clara. She hadn't just been reading about finance. She had been masterfully executing it. She had built a quiet empire from our humble savings, all to ensure I would never be vulnerable, never be powerless. At the very bottom of the folder was a sealed envelope. My name was written on it in her hand. My dearest Arthur, it began. If you are reading this, then my time with you has come to an end, and you have found the safety net I wove for you. Forgive the secrecy, my love, but I wanted you to be surprised, to have choices in your golden years after a lifetime of hard work. I must also confess, my trust in Isabel was always limited. I saw a cold ambition in her that worried me deeply, a tendency to value things over people. I feared she would lead Leo's heart astray. This is why I structured everything as I did. If our son cares for you and honors you as you deserve, he will be comfortable. But if he ever allows himself to be swayed, if he ever treats you with anything less than the love and respect you have earned, you will have all the power you need to protect your home and your dignity. She had foreseen it all. With a clarity my hopeful heart had refused to see. Use this power wisely, Arthur, the letter continued. Not for vengeance, but for protection and for teaching. Leo is a good man at his core. He is simply lost. But if you must stand your ground, you now have the means to do so. With all my love, now and always, your Clara. I sat on the floor of our bedroom, the documents fanned out around me, and I wept. I wept for the incredible woman I had lost. I wept for the son I was likely to lose forever. But these were not tears of despair. They were tears of profound gratitude, of awe, and of a fierce, resolute strength flooding back into my veins. Clara hadn't just given me wealth. She had given me back my voice, my agency. Leo and Isabel thought they were pressuring a helpless old man. They had no idea they were threatening a man who held the deed to their home and a stake in their ambitions. They were trying to kick me out of my house, not knowing it was the least valuable asset I owned. I didn't sleep that night, but for the first time in weeks, it wasn't from sadness. It was from strategy. My mind was clear, focused, and calm. Clara had given me more than money. She had given me a mission, and now I had to decide how to use the tools she had left me. Friday morning arrived, overcast and heavy with unshed rain. I heard the large, moving truck rumble to a stop outside my house. Through the window, I saw Leo and Isabel getting out of their car, looking determined. They expected to find a defeated old man, packed and ready for his exile. Instead, they found me sitting calmly in my favorite armchair, sipping a cup of tea as if it were any other morning. "Dad, what are you doing?" Leo said, his voice tight with impatience. "The movers are here." "I know," I replied, my voice steady, "but I'm not going anywhere." Isabel stepped forward, her smile brittle. "Arthur, we've been through this. This isn't a negotiation." "Oh, I agree," I said, placing my cup down on the side table. "It's not. But it turns out, the terms of the negotiation are very different from what you believed." Something in my tone made them both pause. Leo looked confused. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that I recently discovered some fascinating details about my financial situation," I said, walking slowly to Clara's desk where I had laid out a select few documents. "But don't worry, it will all become clear very soon." Leo and Isabel exchanged a glance, the kind they reserved for when they thought I was being forgetful. "Dad, enough games," Leo said, irritation rising. "The movers are on the clock." "Then you should send them away," I replied calmly, "because they won't be moving anything from this house." Isabel's facade broke. "Arthur, you don't have a choice." "On the contrary, Isabel," I said, meeting her gaze directly. "It's you who no longer has a choice." I picked up the first document. "Did you know that the apartment you've been living in for the past 3 years? You've never actually been paying the true owner?" Leo frowned. "What are you talking about?" "We pay our rent to Sterling Property Management every month." "Yes," I said, "and Sterling Property Management deposits that money into an account under my name, because I own the entire building." The silence that followed was absolute. Leo's face went slack with disbelief. Isabel was the first to find her voice with a nervous laugh. "That's impossible. You live on a fixed income." "I lived on a pension by choice," I corrected her. "My wife was far more savvy than any of us knew." I handed Leo the property deed. He read it once, then again, his hands beginning to shake. This can't be real. It's as real as the fact that you were trying to force me out of my home to take it for yourselves," I said. "But it turns out, this house is the least of what I own." Isabel snatched the paper from Leo, her face drained of color as she read. "This has to be a forgery." "You're welcome to have your lawyer verify it," I said with a quiet confidence. "In fact, I insist you do." Leo sank onto the sofa as if his legs had given out. Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because I didn't know myself until 3 days ago," I answered honestly. "Your mother kept this secret to protect me." How wise she was. Isabel started pacing, her mind racing. "This changes everything, Leo. If your mother owns our building, it means I can give you a 30-day eviction notice," I finished for her, "along with all the other tenants who have been paying me promptly." "You can't do that," Isabel cried, her composure shattering. "We're family." "Family? The word came out laced with a pain I could no longer conceal. Like when you were ready to have me declared incompetent to seize my house. Like when you packed away my life as if it were trash. Like when you took your mother's pearl earrings. The confrontation that followed was brutal and cathartic. Leo, cornered and desperate, blamed Isabel. Isabel, in turn, revealed how Leo had been swayed by her ambition. The movers, confused, were paid and sent away. The ultimatums flew, and in the end, faced with the loss of her home and the exposure of her manipulations, Isabel gave Leo a final, cruel choice: his mother's money or her. To my astonishment and his own, Leo chose me. "I've spent years listening to you belittle my father," he said, his voice trembling but clear. "I won't do it anymore. We're done." Isabel left in a fury, and Leo and I were left alone in the wreckage of our relationship, surrounded by the proof of Clara's love and foresight. The journey back was not easy. The court date with Isabel, who sued for what she thought was her share, was where the judge, an old intern I had mentored decades ago, recognized me. That unexpected connection sealed our victory, a testament to a lifetime of small kindnesses. But the real victory happened slowly, in the quiet of our home. Leo moved back into his old room. We began to talk, really talk, for the first time in years. He apologized, not in a single grand gesture, but through 1,000 small ones, helping with the garden, learning my recipes, listening to my stories about his mother. He got a new job on his own merits and started rebuilding his life. 5 years later, the sound of laughter has returned to this house. My granddaughter, Lily, chases butterflies in the garden that Clara loved. Leo is a devoted father, determined to raise his daughter with the values he once lost sight of. And I used the wealth Clara left me to start a foundation that helps other seniors facing similar battles, protecting their homes and their dignity. One evening, as Leo, Lily, and I sat on the porch watching the sunset, Leo turned to me. "Dad, have you ever been able to truly forgive me?" I looked at my son, at the man he had struggled to become again, and at the joyful little girl in his arms. "I forgave you a long time ago, son," I said. "But watching you forgive yourself, that was the real victory." The lesson wasn't about the money. It was about the unbreakable strength of a parent's love, the resilience of the human spirit, and the truth that it is never, ever too late to stand up for yourself and reclaim your story.